Welcome to another edition of Popcorn Points. Today we're talking about Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 follows the Merc with a Mouth as he assembles a new team called X-Force in order to stop Cable from killing a young mutant. That's pretty much all I can really say about the film because there is another subplot about it that kind of motivates Deadpool, but I can't really tell you what that is without spoiling part of the film. Let's bring out the popcorn meter. There's a lot of hype around Deadpool 2, so let's see if it's true. Let's start off with a few good things about the movie. I will say there is no other person that can play Deadpool other than Ryan Reynolds. This guy was definitely built to play Deadpool. He's the only one that really fought to get this movie made. It took about 10 years to go ahead and get to this point to have even a Deadpool 2. So having Ryan Reynolds return and have a big creative impact on the full outcome of the movie, that definitely plays a big factor because without Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, we wouldn't really have the Deadpool movie that we all know and love based on the comics. Another thing I loved about this movie is the collage of characters that comes out in this film. Obviously you have Deadpool, you have Cable, and then you have a whole new team from X-Force. One of the best characters in this film other than Deadpool is definitely Cable, played by Josh Brolin. As we all know, Josh Brolin is Thanos in the Avengers Infinity War films, so it's awesome seeing that he's playing another Marvel character. If you're a comic book fan, Cable was definitely true to the comic books. Not so much based on the comic, but there are name references that I really liked. Other characters that were sprinkled in it were a lot of cameos that we really didn't expect, especially knowing that the first Deadpool had a really small micro budget to work with. And now, of course, that their budget got bigger, they were able to bring in a lot of other actors, no matter how small their roles were in the film. I will say that there was a villain that showed up that I was just so happy to see because he's finally done right. And it's totally unexpected. I mean, I had an idea when they kind of hinted at him in the very beginning, but when he finally came out, I was like, yes! I won't say who it is. You'll see when you go see the movie. Speaking of characters, Zazie Beetz, who plays Domino, was awesome. She was sexy, she was funny, she knew how to fight, and she was the most confident out of all the heroes that came out in this film. She knew when she was helpful, she knew when she wasn't helpful, so it was pretty funny seeing her in action, especially knowing that her power is luck, which Deadpool refers to as not a superpower. And it doesn't, but wait till you see the movie. It's pretty sweet. Another great character was Colossus. He had a lot more screen time than a lot of the other supporting characters, and there's a relationship between him and Deadpool where it just goes to the next level, so that was pretty hilarious. The action in this movie was also pretty awesome. In the very opening, we get a sense of where Deadpool is in his life right now, and the opening is pretty hilarious, and we can't really understand the opening until we get a little bit further into the film. But then after that, we get to see the chimichanga-loving mutant in action as he goes on different assassination missions, and he's just killing bad guys left and right, going worldwide. It's pretty sweet. But I think the biggest action moments are definitely in the prison scene when Cable and Deadpool finally meet and start fighting each other. It's especially awesome knowing that Cable and Deadpool have a long history of comic book issues together, and seeing them two on screen banter against each other and fight each other, it's pretty sweet. Another awesome thing, obviously, is the humor. This movie is made to be a comedy film, so it does play out like a comedy film. If the first one had you laughing, this one's going to have you laughing definitely a lot more. I will say that maybe they did tone the jokes down a little bit more. They got a little bit wittier, a little bit smarter with the delivery and what they were saying. And there's a lot of references, especially old references from maybe the 90s when Ryan Reynolds was, at the height of his career. So if you don't really get those references, you might not find yourself laughing, but if you're a 90s kid like me, maybe even older than that, you're definitely going to laugh at a lot of the comedy in here. And the story was pretty sweet. It's kind of hard to determine what kind of story we're going to have with Deadpool. I will say the story got a little bit darker at some points, but it was the driving force throughout the movie, and they were still able to make it semi-lighthearted and funny as the movie progressed. So the story itself, with Deadpool seeking redemption, trying to save this kid from Cable, it was a really good story. And make sure you stay for the end credit scene. It's not all the way after the credits, but it's a mid-credit scene. It's kind of broken into two parts. but just make sure you stay because a lot of people are talking about it being the best they've ever seen of any end credit scene in any Marvel movie. I will say that it's in my top 3. I have to look back at the others, but it's definitely up there. It's hilarious. Ryan Reynolds just keeps doing this running joke, and it goes full throttle in this end credit scene. That's all I'm going to say about it, and it's awesome. But the movie did have a few problems. Essentially, at the heart of the film, it's a comedy film, and I will say it did get serious throughout the movie, which is totally fine. I mean, you need some kind of substance to make it a really good movie, and it gave Deadpool the motivation that he needed to have the mission that he had. Sometimes it just kind of took you out of the moment because Deadpool is such a hilarious character that, you know, it was okay to establish that moment, and they kind of refer back to it several times throughout the movie, but it kind of takes you away from the comedy. So there's moments where you're laughing and then you're kind of like, there's no more laughing going on. So you kind of get out of the mood of the movie, and then it throws you right back into it. So I will say the mood change and the mood shifts in the movie, they might be a little bit unbalanced, so it kind of throws you off while you're watching it. And it kind of drags. It feels a little bit boring for a little while. There's still some jokes, there's still some hilarious moments within this period of time where, you know, Deadpool is not in action, but I will say it drags long enough to where you're like, okay, when are we going to finally get into the stuff that we really want to see? Because ultimately we want to laugh, we want to enjoy this movie, and it just kind of it gets a little bit boring, so it takes you out of the moment. I will say the CGI in Colossus is exactly the same. They didn't look like they made any kind of improvements on it, and when they brought in other CG characters, it was kind of like, well, it's cool to see it. It's not horrible, but it's not great. So hopefully they can up the ante on that. There were also little technical moments where I felt like some of the audio wasn't fully mixed or edited correctly. I noticed that maybe some words were cut off, or maybe extra words were inserted where they shouldn't have been. I just felt like some of the audio was kind of off. So some technical issues, some pacing issues. You might get a little bit bored, but it'll bring you back to the laughs and it'll bring you back into the action. So if you can just hang on, it's a almost 2-hour movie, so it's a lot to get through, but if you're a Deadpool fan, it delivers on Deadpool, which is ultimately what we're there to see. That's what we want, that's what we want to see. We want to see an awesome Deadpool movie, and it was. So tell us, what did you think about Deadpool 2? Are you going to see it this weekend? Was it awesome? Was it or was it just not as good as the first one? So make sure that you like this video, comment below, let us know what you thought, and hit that subscribe button so that way you can get more content from NerdFellas. That's it with Popcorn Points. I'm Mike. Nerd out.